Aluminium is the most common metal in the world. It makes up 8% of the planet's crust. But it's not easy to find, at least not in its pure state. Unlike gold and silver, it doesn't exist as raw nuggets or rich veins.
We don't find aluminum in its free form, but it just doesn't look like aluminum.
That's because aluminium and oxygen are inexorably linked. Oxygen is the third most common element in the world. Aluminium automatically bonds with oxygen to form aluminium oxide, rather than staying in its pure form. So when hunting for aluminium, it's mud you're looking for, or at least clay. In fact, aluminium's first recorded use was by ancient Middle Eastern potters who used clay laden with aluminium oxide to strengthen their pottery.
It's been around forever. 5500 BC, they talked about the metal from clay.
Today, the process of isolating aluminium begins with a rich deposit of that same ancient clay, bauxite. This is Alcoa Huntly Mine amid Australian's Darling mountain range. These mountains are an incredibly rich source of bauxite.
They're found on the mid to the upper slopes of the ranges here. This is the largest bauxite mine in the world. Here we mine 23 million tonnes of bauxite every year.
But most of it can't be mined without first smashing through a barrier of underground rock that's more than 4 meters deep. And the only way to do that is with enough explosives to demolish a 10-story building.
We'll have about 1 to 2 hectares as a blast every time, and that will liberate in the order of between 50 and 100,000 tonnes.
That's 100,000 tonnes of ore, not aluminium. The trick is now to separate the aluminium and oxygen from everything else inside the bauxite, which means pummeling the ore into a powder.
The milling system produces fine particles that's easy to digest.
The powdered ore is digested at refineries. Here, an amazing transformation takes place. The bauxite powder is mixed with a caustic fluid that separates the aluminium oxide from the mud and sand, leaving a solution of concentrated aluminium oxide. The solution dries into gritty crystals called alumina that resemble table salt.
Aluminum oxide is a white, it resembles beach sand. It's extremely bright, it's extremely hard. As a matter of fact, if you go to the construction supply store and buy sandpaper, you're buying aluminum oxide.
But this aluminium isn't heading for the local hardware shop. It's feeding the global demand for aluminium. Any delay in the supply chain drives up the cost, so it's off to the smelters without a second's delay. To get pure aluminium, you've got to shatter the bonds between aluminium and oxygen. Each pot is blasted with enough electricity to power a mid-sized city.
It's in the presence of electricity that electrolytic process happens, that we free up the aluminum atoms from the oxygen atoms.
The oxygen rises to the top of the pot, while the denser molten aluminium sinks. The 950-degree liquid aluminium is sucked out using a vacuum. This facility produces 155,000 tons of aluminium a year.